So today I am making, I have a retired towel and I'm just making some little segments that I will use as to clean my iron. So you need something that's 100% cotton so you can crank the heat of your iron all the way up so you can have poly content in the towel. And this towel started to rip, which means it's shedding a bunch of string every time I wash it. So I cut it into these nice rectangular chunks, and I'm taking this pre-made binding, and I actually have a couple of them that I just had in my stash. This is some Wright's double bias tape. This one's a little bit nicer. It's 100% cotton. I also had been using their basics, which is these white and black ones. This is poly cotton. For a pot holder, I would not use these because the side touches the hot pot. But for this iron cleaner, I'm not going to be scrubbing my iron on the binding. This is just to allow me to launder it without this thing becoming a frayed mess and clogging up my washing machine. So this is pre-made, what I would call single binding. So it's double fold bias tape. Comes like that. And it's got the creases in there. And since I'm doing this quick, I'm going to use this package binding. Here's my raw edge of my terry cloth. This would be the same for like a pot holder, but I would use 100% cotton. First thing, I'm going to do the cheater finish. I'm not going to do a continuous binding because that's too much work for this quick project. So unfold it all the way, take one corner and fold it diagonally across. Whichever side, you are going to just place the single raw edge along the raw edge of your project and hold that 45 there, and it's got a crease. You're just going to put your needle roughly in this crease. You don't want to go past the crease because this will make this side that you're folding over too short, but you can be on this crease, maybe a hair to the right of this crease, and I'm using whatever thread is in my machine because, again, this isn't a beauty project, so I really don't care. So again, my slope is kind of going from left to right downward. If yours goes from right to left downward, it does not matter. This is going to work either way. So as you go around, whatever is your seam allowance, so this is double fold, extra wide. The single width packaged bias tape is made for finishing seams inside a garment. So it's like one layer of fabric in there. It's not going to get around anything beefy and chunky like this terry cloth or a quilt. So this centerpiece could be a pot holder, it could be a quilt project, whatever. But it's going to be more bulky. So this double width works way better. It's still a pretty tight little binding. So I place a pin, which is however wide my seam allowance is, it's that far up from the bottom. So when I sew to this point, I'll have a little square. And you just sew right down. All right, and then I sew till my needle is even with my pin. I'm gonna pivot, sew toward the point. And this is exactly the same as it would be for regular double binding, like you typically do your homemade binding. Now, this fold over here, we don't really care what's going on with that right now. So again, you'll have a 45-degree fold here. You want your raw edge to line up with the new raw edge. So this is where I was sewing along here. This is where I'm headed. This raw edge and this raw edge line up, and then I fold it down, and the raw edge lines up with the new edge, and the fold lines up with the old edge where you're coming from. And then you'll just stick that back under, and again, you're sewing pretty much in that valley. So if you're good at eyeballing and you want to just stop your seam allowance back from the edge, some people are good at that. if you are new and you want to measure, that's always a good habit. That's how you develop your calibrated eye, is by measuring and getting a feel of what it looks like. I do like the pen no matter how experienced you are, because I can't see this edge with the binding on top of it. And then I have my seam tape. I just put my corner aimed at the seam tape and take a little 45-degree off. Okay, so here we are. We've rounded the sides. Here's where I've got my start point, and I had my 45-degree folded over. Yours could be going this way or the same way as mine. And I'm going to come in here. I'm going to overlap. This is kind of where the magic happens. Overlap this. You want to go past your 45 a little bit. It's not critical exactly how long that is, but it needs to go past your 45 some. And I'm just going to continue along, and I don't have to press this. I don't have to do a diagonal join. I'm just going to sew this down all the way. And there we go. So now I want to unfold this outer layer on this would be on the bottom where I started, and wrap it around. And now when I wrap this around, all of my raw edges will be enclosed. So let me just show how this looks. I'm gonna flip this over. So here is where it is. I've got a folded edge here, and I did not have to go to the ironing board. I did not have to go do a separate seam and make sure it worked out. So now, and you'll notice I'm using dark thread, because for this project I'm using whatever is in my machine. It's not that deep. These are service items, not really decorative items. So now I'm top stitching. I go, here's my little fold right over that. So now my raw edges are enclosed. So same way you would do your little mitered corner. And you say, if you don't care how this looks, why are you doing a miter? I do care about durability, because I don't want to have to do this again. And that's why I sew down the miter, and I do care about speed. And to me, the miter is faster than stopping and doing each side separately and folding under the tails. I feel like that's just as much work. So then you just top stitch that down all the way around, just like you would for any other binding. Do-do-do. All right, so let's finish this up and we'll see how this looks. I do like this little binding because it's blue and white stripes. And I was trying to save it for something cute because it is 100% cotton and it is cute. And I thought, oh, that'll be so cute somewhere. But this is a short binding. It's only about 3 yards, and which is like 2.5 strips off of a bit of fabric. I don't really make projects that small typically, and I've been saving it, and it's time to get some flow. I don't like to hoard my supplies. If I'm not using it, why am I owning it? So I try to use them up. So this binding is maybe cuter than this project deserves, but I don't know, when I get this out and look at it, I'll go, oh, how cute, my striped binding. So there is using pre-made commercial binding, what I would call a single binding. Don't get confused, it is double fold bias tape that I'm using here. But when you make a normal binding, you have 2 layers of fabric here, and it is a little bit more durable. And for a real quilt, especially if it is for the couch or for kids, something that's really going to get used, I like the extra durability. If it's going to hang on the wall or be put away and never looked at and used and laundered, then this kind, or the kind that rolls through the back, looks nice. You're just losing a wear layer. It's just fewer fibers that you can break through and still have an intact binding holding your business together. Have a look. Yes, I use navy thread, and the way I do it, you do have a line of stitching just inside your binding on the back side, but if you were doing this in real life, your bobbin thread would be a blending color and this would camouflage, and with all the quilting and everything, you'd never notice it. There you go. Iron cleaners. And I'm going to be finishing this stack. And that's my job for this morning.